Hello folks, welcome back to my third vlog. This one is almost all about Twisted, except for this fella, which I promised I would paint before I went on to anything else. It's Shang the Totem from Manifo. I told you I wasn't very good at painting fire. I'm not massively happy with this. I'm not even sure I did my best, I just did it. So there's Shang, it's done, let's move on. So now I've finished Shang, I've decided that just for a bit of a change of pace, I want to have a go at some of the other minis for the game that I'm very, very excited to play when lockdown is over. And that's Twisted. I mentioned it a couple of videos ago. I've got the minis here, which I haven't opened yet, which I'm quite excited about. I thought I'd do that on my vlog. So I basically Twisted is a game that's set in a steampunk alternate reality London. The world is not governed quite, but heavily influenced by this sort of steampunk AI entity called the Engine. And it's a very powerful thing. And some factions want to use its power and some factions want to protect the machine, but the machine is manipulating everyone, it seems. It's got some brilliant stuff. It's got a great backstory. And it was my friend Hedley Coppock that turned me on to this one, because I'd seen the miniatures before, but then I found out he had some, and he's an amazing, probably the best painter I know, well, definitely the best painter I know in person, probably one of the best painters I know, full stop. He's got some of these miniatures. The game looks really good, and I think Hedley and I are going to take the plunge into playing this when we can at the club. So I've gone for the Servants of the Engine, which are sort of the Engine loyalists. And there's some cracking minis in this range, and I really like the way the guys at Demented Games have worked sort of almost British folklore into some of these models. They're fantastic. So there's two sets at the moment for Servants of the Engine and a couple of other bits which I'll show you in a minute, which I really, really love. This is the first set. Nice box. And here's some of the models that are in it. Tesla makes an appearance, one of my favourite people from history anyway. Nouveau, he's a leader of this faction, and he's pretty cool. Then we've got Nightingale, a bit Florency, and then we've got a knight, Clockwork Knight. This blacksmith dude's really weird. He's got an actual chimney on his back and a fire in his belly, but he's a pretty cool model. And then a Clockwork Highwaywoman. So these are called Gentlefolk, and these are automatons which have got their own little, I suppose, robotic brains, but the machine can take control of those at sometimes. So they can't be healed normally. They have to be repaired mechanically, but these two are humans. And like all good skirmish games, each one's got sort of individual special rules, and it's how you use them together that makes the whole thing work. So let's just take this outer sleeve off. Very exciting. Let's see if we can open this box. It would help if I was able to open a box and I was unboxing, and it's upside down. Brilliant. So, oh, cards. I do like a game with a good set of cards in it. There's a really interesting mechanic here, which I like. I think I've never played it, so I don't know, but it's intriguing me. Where I think, are these cards in here? Yeah. Where the order of activation, you don't decide during the turn. You've got these cards here, which are the character cards, which just have the character face on, and the idea is that at the start of each turn, you've got these cards and you have to put them in the order that you're going to activate them. So if I put them in this order and I was playing these guys, when it was my turn to activate, I would have to turn the next one over, so I'd be activating Nightingale. So you have to predetermine at the start of the turn which order you're going to activate models in, which is a really interesting tactical twist. I know people that have played Confrontation before, that was a game I missed because I wasn't playing games when that was around. I'd taken a bit of a break for life. Then it's a familiar mechanic from that game apparently, but I've never played it, so I'm quite excited by that because I think it's a really interesting thing. So there's the activation cards, and there are cards here for all the models in there. There's good old Tesla with his plasma staff, and on the back there are all the special rules that apply to that particular model. And I like the fact that all the rules are on there, and it's not just a list of rules, so you don't have to go ferreting in the rule book every time. So Nightingale is expected a healing type, and she can fly, which is a good thing. Nouveau, he's a bit of a dual wielding, finessed combat chap, and he does stuff with drawing cards, which is, you know, part of the game mechanics. Once I've actually played it, I'll be able to tell you how that works. There's a blacksmith I was talking about earlier. He's got a steam hammer, which does a lot of damage, and he can throw burning coals at people. Honestly, some of these models are just, the whole thing is a bit bonkers. Clockwork horse, well, centaur really, with a lance and a pistol. Thundering charge, does extra damage when it charges, can run through, brilliant. Lots and lots of strange things going on there, very excited by those. And then here are the models. Okay, I don't know if you can see those, I'll pull them out so you can. So nicely bagged up, that's the blacksmith, multi-part metal. You can get these in resin, but because I'm an old grognard, I love a good metal model, so I've gone for the metal versions. They're very nice. There's very little flash on these, if any, actually, and no mould lines. Very good. So that's the blacksmith. There's Nouveau himself. Very fine detail on these. I don't know if you can see them in the bag. See if I can just get him out, and you can see the detail on his shirt there. This is going to be a challenge for me to paint, because that marvelous. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Here's what I think is part of the Lancet. Yep, and there's the other part. So they're not huge models, which I like as well. They look like proper to scale, 28 to 30 mil rather than massive scale creep ones. That's really cool. So there's a weird cavalry model. Who's this? There's a highwayman, highwaywoman rather, highway person. Loads of detail on her. Tesla. He's got some sort of biomechanical exosuit, biomechanical steampunk, steam-driven exosuit thing with cogs and stuff on it. And there's Nightingale with her wings, mechanical wings, and her lamp, which you can dazzle enemies with, apparently. Very nice. So that was set one. In true Iain style, I couldn't leave it there though, so just let me get these out of the way. I also had to go for the other set as well, because I'm a compulsive completist. Right, so this is the second one, and the theme of this box is slightly different. They've got some sort of mythical cyberpunk crossover figures here, and some sort of tropes of British working folk. So Medusa, she's really interesting. Medusa is not a person. Medusa is a weird helmet which takes over the body of the person that it's sitting on, and can float around on its own as well. But she's an alchemancer, which is, I guess, a bit like a wizard, but she does spells and stuff. But she can take different hosts. That's very cool. Launcelot, as you'd expect, a bit of a fighty sort of chap, but he's also got a really good gun that can shoot through people. Gretel and Hansel, brilliant. sort of a zippy abouty flying person with a trained monkey that can do scouting. Honestly, it's bonkers. I'm loving that. The teacher, hilarious, old school, you know, sort of governess, school mom type person. One of her abilities, I think, is scold, so she can scold people, which makes them lose activations. And then we're sort of, so yeah, these are the sort of British type working folk, I guess. The gamekeeper, excellent, as you'd expect. Bit of a shotgun type affair, and he's got his backpack on his back when he's roaming the grounds. And again, these are all robotic folk. Flower seller, as you'd expect, flower seller, but she's got lots of snippy appendages, so she can do some damage that way. And then there's a sailor with a massive cannon who has an anchor to anchor himself, so he doesn't get blown away every time he fires his cannon. That's a bit nuts. I'll just show you the minis in this one as well. As you'd expect, as previously, there. I won't take them all out because you know the drill there. There's the cards. Who have we got here? Oh, there's the guy with the cannon and the cannon blast. The teacher. She's got sort of wheels at the bottom of her sort of bustly dress, and she's got a cane to scold people with. Oh, this is Lancelot, looking sort of quite regal there, with his extremely large rifle-y thing and a sword. Here's the flower seller. I really love this model, and actually on the Demented Games website, the paint job for this is brilliant. I love it. These all look like petals. So I'm going to try my best to do something similar on that. It won't be as good, obviously, but I really like that model. Very cool. Who's this? Oh, yeah, best one in the box, Gretel and Hansel. There's the little monkey on a log, and there's Gretel with a pistol. I think, can you see there? And her sort of witchy hat, dashing about the place. Love that. Medusa, as I said before. I don't know whether you can see her weird helmet and her cyberpunk goggles. I keep saying cyberpunk, steampunk goggles there, and the sort of the mechanical snakes that come off it. That's going to be interesting to assemble. Super fine pins out, and this last one is the gamekeeper. And there's his rifle, and he's got a sort of, he's even got a metal beard. How cool is that? But yeah, so there's those models. Absolutely brilliant. I love them. And I'm very, very excited to get cracking with these. What I need to do is to work out which ones I'm going to build first and paint first. I was going to try and do a list, but I'll probably just paint the ones I like. But just before I do that, I want to show you some little extras that I got for this faction, which are sort of subsequent to those two boxes. And these come in blister packs. This is Chief Inspector Abeline, right? Now, he is good old British copper with a bowler hat, but he's also got a sort of mechanical speaker apparatus and some sort of, I don't know, ticker tape printing machine that he holds out in front of him. I don't know if you can see that on the card there, because as a Chief Inspector, as you might expect, he controls a lot of policemen, and the policemen are some of my favourite models here. They are clockwork mono-wheel coppers. Absolutely brilliant. I'm just not opened these yet. So these are the constables. Cards as you'd expect. Away. But that's what they look like. There's 3 in this blister. They've got a variety of like heads, oh, wrong place, heads, truncheons, a bit of a riot shield thing going on, and they've all got obviously enormous walrus moustaches, which you have to have if you're a Victorian era steampunk policeman. And there are their monowheels, which is the bottom half of their bodies. Absolutely bonkers, but love it. And then the last one of this sort of group is Sergeant Clark, who is another mechanical Bobby, but they're Sergeant. And in the fluff, he's sort of grown a bit of his own AI in his tiny little head, and he's a bit of a bent copper. There's a story in the PDF that goes with these about him taking bribes and the like, even though he's not really sure he's got any use for money, but everyone else seems to like it. So again, the story behind some of these, the fluff in this game is fabulous. So there's another one. So that sort of group of minis there is a whole other little force for that faction, which I'm really looking forward to. God knows what I'm going to paint first, really. Anyway, I'm going to go inside that and I'll let you know. So here they are all built. I reckon it's taken me probably 3-ish hours to get all these built. I love metal miniatures. I always have. I don't know whether it's just because I'm an old person and it's what I grew up with, but I've really enjoyed these. But some of it can be a little bit fiddly. Anyway, I've got them based 2 different ways, which is fine because my board's got different areas on it which look different. I'll show you how I did Medusa's base after this. Part of my teaching you how to suck eggs series, but it might be helpful. But if I just go through some of these, they're absolutely awesome. So this one's Medusa with her cowl and the seeker snakes and her crossbow. I love this guy. This is crazy. This is the blacksmith gentlefolk. He's an automaton who has an actual forge on his back with a pelican nesting in the roof. Not many miniatures games have that sort of insanity as part of their lineup. Here's the teacher, another great model. She's got the school bell and her teacher's cane there. I'm not sure what these bits are here. They look almost like darts of some sort that someone's fired at her. Maybe some of the kids that she's supposed to be teaching didn't like her lessons, so they've fired darts at her. But that's her. Flower cellar. Brilliant model. Love that model. There's so much character in that. And there's even a tiny little hummingbird there on the rose. That's going to be fun to paint. Boss man. Yeah, he Nouveau. He, on the Demented site, the studio job has sort of these cogs, which I assume are some sort of part of the engine's manifestation, popping out from underneath some brickwork. I wasn't brave enough to do that, so I've just followed what I do with quite a few bases with my coffee stirrer wooden platform sort of look. Had them bursting through that. We'll see what he looks like painted up, but he's very cool. Who haven't done the gamekeeper? He's awesome. I'd like to meet the sculptor who did this and shake him warmly by the throat. This pipe is a separate piece, you crazy, crazy people. I can't tell you how long I fiddled to get that stuck on there. I only joke, of course. It is a very fiddly piece, but it's a brilliant model. Really nice. Gretel and Hansel, one of my favourites as well. Little monkey down here who can run off and do things for her. Bit of a sort of witchy look, witchy hat on her, but obviously with a pair of steampunk goggles. So they're all the ones I've painted. The ones on these resin bases, these cobblestone bases, I've just pinned. So I've drilled into them. I've cut the tabs off, drilled into the model, drilled through the base, and then used a bit of green stuff and super glue to bond them together. So you can see all of these there. These ones I've just kept the slotters done, and I'll just show you how I did Medusa, because her feet, if you can see there, are just far too small to drill, so I had to do her slightly differently. So to get around her tiny foot issue, I have trimmed, as you can see there, the tab, so it's a much smaller piece. I've cut very carefully using a razor saw away from one of the legs, and just left a small rectangular piece of the slaughter tab hanging down. I've filed that down, and in the resin base itself I've drilled 2 small holes, and then used a hobby knife to scrape out a sort of square hole, so that I can fit the rest of the slaughter into that. I've had to file the slaughter tab down a little bit, and then I've just put some green stuff and super glue into the hole and pushed it in. So it's a, I know everybody probably knows how to do that anyway, but just in case you don't, that's a really good way of pinning models with very small feet into resin bases. So that's the first set of servants miniatures done there. I've been deeply unimaginative and just built the ones that are in the list in the rule book, just to get me started really. So I'm going to throw some undercoat on these and then start painting them up. Small update, I did curse the sculptor of this mini, not for not making a brilliant mini, which it is, and they're all brilliant, but for, if you remember just a second ago, making the pipe one piece. I've since looked on the internet and realised that it's me that's an idiot, because his pipe is supposed to go in his mouth. So my gamekeeper is a sort of friendly gamekeeper that's walking around with his shotgun broken and his pipe in his hand, ready to gesticulate and give directions to friendly passers-by. So instead of having the pipe in his mouth, got it in his hand. So it wasn't the sculptor's fault at all, it was mine. So I've managed to get 2 minis painted from the ones I showed you before. The first is the flower seller, which is this lady here. She's like she's a gardener, which I think I said before. She's got mechanical snippy hands, which stop her being able to be snuck up on, if that's even a word. And I did copy some bits from the studio paint scheme on the internet, mainly the petals on her dress, which I really liked. So I had a go at doing that with some glazes and a fuchsia coloured paint. These models are so intricately detailed, they're absolutely fantastic. Look at that tiny little bird on that rose there. They're the sorts of models that I find myself actually wanting to come and paint. I'm really excited by sitting down and painting them. Not all models do that. So that's the flower seller, love her. And the second one I did was Gretel and Hansel. There's Gretel, the lady, and Hansel is the little monkey underneath. So much detail on this model, and so fine detail as well. I'm not sure you can even see some of it. The gold chains that go across the back of her dress are hair thin. The little ones that she's got on her belt here are absolutely tiny. So they are quite challenging, but honestly, some of the nicest miniatures I've ever painted, and really imaginative as well. So see, I actually got a face done on her as well. Fantastic. So they're the 2 I've painted so far. Come and have a look next week to see how many more I've done and which ones I've done, and have a good week, folks. See you.